Okay, so here we are, and we are doing honor your parents. Honor your parents, a dynamic relationship. Introduction. This commandment to honor your parents is on the first tablet. We're on the first tablet of the Dibrot, which spell out the relationship between man and God. As we explore this dynamic relationship, we should keep in mind that our tradition views it with great spiritual significance. So let's get into what I think is just one of the most deepest ideas that I have in this whole course. Our rabbis taught 3 partners make up a person. Tana Rabbanu, Shloisha Shutfin Hein Ba'adam. There are 3 partners in a person. Who are they? Kodesh Baruch Hu, God, V'Aviv, Father, V'Imo, and a mother. Not 2, 3. Take 3. B'zman she'adam mechabed es Aviv v'es Imoi. When a person honors their parents, Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Ma'ila ani aleihem, I consider ke'ilu dati b'neihem ukabduni, as if I dwelt between them and they honored me. And says the Maharal of Prague, just such a beautiful idea. Just if this is all you take from this whole course, Dayenu. I mean, it's just says the Maharal of Prague. Why is it that this is on this? Why is it that kibbud av v'em, honoring one's parents, is the 5th commandment, meaning it's on the first tablet between the mitzvah between a person and God? And as we go through them, we will see that the first one, says the Maharal of Prague, is Anecha Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. That's talking about Metzias Hashem, that there is a God. Lo Yelecha is talking about the fact that God's power is, don't have any idols, is that God's power is all over them, is almighty. Lo Sisa, do not take God's name in vain, means that that's the honor of God. Shabbos is what's called Hashkacha Klalis, God created the world. Kibbud av v'em, honoring parents, is Hashkacha Pratis, is recognizing God's specific providence in your life. And he brings this Gemara and he says, you know, if you would think, what is the most determinant thing in your life? What has determined more in your life than probably anything else by a long way? And of course it's your parents. Because you, first of all, it's you carry their genetic makeup, you're a combination of their genetic makeup. Number 2, you grew up in their house. You grew up where they decided that you should grow up. And a lot of your education came from them. So who you are and how you see this world and the situations. Well, hang on a second, there's Barry. Why is he calling me? Barry, we're in the class. What's going on?
I can't get in. I give you the password. It doesn't accept it. Won't accept the password.
Really? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7?
Yeah. No, won't accept it. I've tried 5, 6 times already. This one says, no, wrong password.
Okay.
Will you send me the recording then or something? Will you send me the recording?
Yeah, I'm gonna actually send you a link, okay?
Okay, fine, thank you. Okay,
I'll send you a link and then you'll see if that works. If not, I'm gonna send you I'll send you a recording. Sorry everyone.
Thank you, thanks.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry guys, you know, but it's Barry Musselson. We gotta give honor where honor's due. Okay. Oh no, what is his Barry Musselson? Oh gosh. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, sorry guys, back to our class. And we're back to sharing the screen. What came up here? Oh gosh. Okay, so says the Maharal of Prague, your parents are the most determinant thing in your life. And if you realize that they didn't just have a Kodesh Baruch Hu, God worked with your parents to have you. He's one of the Shutfim. He's one of the partners in your creation. So then when you honor your parents, when you honor that, when you honor your parents and you say, yes, I realize the great significance and the honor due to my parents for just having me and having brought me up, hopefully in a good way, etc., but just for having me. One also recognizes God. And not only is one honoring God, but you're honoring the hashgacha pratis in your life. You're honoring the divine providence in your life. Now, Rabbi Foreman puts together the Ten Commandments, the Midrash really, that they are 5 on one tablet, 5 on the other. So, Kivud Av'ein relates to Lo Sachmud, to not coveting. And what did we learn in Lo Sachmud? That the core value is to see your life as a gift, as a blessing, to really embrace and to be so thankful and grateful and in awe of your own life and the gift of life. You can only honor your parents. That's the one, right? Remember, these are the last of the 2 tablets. The one that's opposite it, you can only really honor your parents when you are happy with your own life. Because then you realize the incredible gift that your parents have given you called life and everything that is in it. So that's really the depth of this midrash over here. And it really, to me, makes such an important connection between honoring parents, bringing in God, just the whole sugya over here. Okay, now, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about just the pshat, just the literal understanding over here. So this debate focuses on the specific relationship we have with parents. It might seem surprising that the consequence for not honoring this responsibility is so great, our ability to live on the land. So here are the words. So it says over here in Exodus, Kaved es avicha v'esimecha, honor your father and your mother. L'man yarichen yamecha ala adama asher Adonai Elohechem niseinacha. In order that your days be lengthened on the land. This is an important mitzvah for living in the land of Israel. Next one, Kaved es avicha v'esimecha, kashet zivcha Hashem lekecha, like God commanded. L'man yarichen yamecha, l'man yitiv lecha. By the way, there's only place in the whole Ten Commandments where the word tov, good, exists, and that's what the Talmud says, that the second tablets were good in the fact that they weren't broken. Al ha'adama asher Adonai Elohechem niseinacha. So here we have this mitzvah of honoring kaved, put in the context of if you do this, it will lead to living in the land. So I don't want to go through too many of these questions. There are a lot over here, but just for yourself, think, what does it mean to honor your parents? Does viewing your parents as part of the divine determination of your life help you to honor them? For me, for sure. Why do you think a length of days on the land is connected to honoring parents? Is it a reward, a consequence? How do we interpret this when living in the diaspora, Nebuch? And according to the Talmud, the version of the Ten Commandments in Deuteronomy is a text for the second tablet. The Talmud comments that the word good only appears in this version as a hint to the fact that the second tablets were never broken, unlike the first. This can be related to broken and whole relationships with our parents. We can understand this to mean that it will be good for you to mend those relationships, to make them whole. How does this resonate with you? How can one become whole when they have a difficult parent? Okay, introduction. We most commonly use the phrase honor your parents to mean obey and speak to parents with respect. However, the Talmud differentiates between kaved.
Sorry, can I ask you to back up for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Because I was rereading what was there, but then you started moving on. The second set of commandments were never broken. The first, so where's the word good written, in Deuteronomy or in Exodus?
In Deuteronomy.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, in this version, right over here, This is actually in Yisro. This is Ve'eschanan. So over here it says Laman Yitev Lecha.
And it doesn't say that in
No,
Exodus.
it does not. So that's where we get this idea. And the Talmud says, you see, that the first tablets were given with lots of fanfare and thunder and lightning, and they were broken. The second tablets, Moshe came down from the mountain Yom Kippur, no one, without any fuss. So you see that's what the Gemara's point is. It points out the mind of sneers, of being modest and not making too much fuss. That's why we're making a wedding with 15 people Sunday. Okay, so there's the Gemara. Okay, that there's the Gemara differentiates between kaved in the Ten Commandments and the mitzvah of yira found in Leviticus in Parshas Kedoshim to you. So to be sure, there's a mitzvah to respect parents. However, it's not the literal intent of the diber. Look at this is the verse in Parshas Kedoshim. Ish imova aviv. Now here it puts the mother before the father. Tira'u, they shall fear. Ve'ez shabsosai tishmuru ani Hashem elkeichem. And my Shabbos says, you shall keep, I am Hashem your God. So the Talmud points out, it's more natural for a person to honor his mother, who puts the father first. It's more natural for a person to fear, right? To respect his father, so it puts the mother first to equalize him. Keep my Shabbos, why? Because even if your parents tell you to break Shabbos, you can't. Why? Because you and your parents are subjugated to Ani Hashem Elkeichem. I'm the Lord your God for both of you. So listen to God before your parents. Okay, says the Talmud. The rabbis taught, how do we respect, how do we honor? Eza Moira, Eza Kibbut. Now this is interesting. Respect, Yira, is not sitting or standing in their place, not contradicting them, not proving them right. Honor is providing them with food and drink, helping them get dressed, covering them, bringing them in and out, and taking them out. Meaning that this word kaved es avicha v'amecha, honor your parents, what we call honor, Israeli says the Gemara, taking care of them physically. Be there, take care of your parents physically. This mitzvah over here, tira'u, you shall fear, you should respect your parents. That is what we call honor generally, which means honor your parents. Listen to them, don't stand in their place or their seat, don't contradict them, don't prove them right. By the way, that means that if your parents say something, you say, "Oh yeah, you're right," No, they don't need you to prove them right if that is non-acceptable generally. Okay, now says Rabbeinu Yoina, don't get confused. The Gemara is giving basic guidelines, but the truth is, the essence of honoring parents is to give them pleasure, either through word or deed. That's okay. Conversation. According to the Talmud, the commandment to honor one's parents and take care of their physical needs. Does this resonate with you? Does this apply to when one's parents are needy? Does this only apply when one's parents are needy or infirm? Whereas we're commanded to specifically honor and respect our parents, there's no specific commandment to love them more than anyone else. Why do you think this is so? The Hebrew word used for yira, for respect, is yira, literally translates to fear or awe. In what ways does respecting parents require elements of fear or awe? And when do you think you have given your parents the greatest pleasure? Go ahead. Anyone want to make any comments?
It's another hard thing to command an emotion. Usually the emotion you feel to a person is based on the specific type of interaction you have with them. So like yira, that's a tough one. I mean, that depends on what your dad's parenting style was, or your mom's parenting style. If your parents were real hard and they demanded absolute, conformity, or they had guidelines and you had to live up to them or else suffer the consequences, yira is natural. On the other hand, if your parents were, barefooted hippies, does yira? It's almost. I wonder if there's a hidden commandment to parents on how to raise their children in that. You should raise their children so that they fear you.
Yeah, for sure. I hear that. First of all, be careful when you say emotion, because the Talmud definitely speaks about it in terms of action, right?
Okay.
To
True.
fear means not to sit in their place, not to stand in their place, not to contradict them. Obviously, you're right. One's meant to have the emotional awareness of this. But I like that. Maybe, I think there is something to that, you're, and I know it's might go against some modern thinking and the ways of the world, but yeah, you don't have to be your child's best buddy and mate. You want to be friends, you want to have a close relationship, but it should be, I think you're right, it's a message to parents. Be the type of parent that your children will naturally want to honor and respect. Okay, anyone else? Just by the way, I want to make by the way, what happens if a person has really abusive parents? Are they obligated to honor them? It's a very difficult area. It seems to be. Sorry?
Can I say something on that?
Yeah, go on.
Honoring parents, for me, I didn't have a very great father. But at the end of the day, as to honor him, still made sure that he had a good burial and he was seen to his basic needs as such.
Okay.
So in that respect, yes.
And so it comes out very good. It comes out like this, that a person, it's taken from a very interesting place. And that is that who has to pay for honoring parents? It says over here, you got to feed them, you got to make sure they got clothes. Who's got to pay for that? So the Talmud comes out to the conclusion that your parents have to pay. Parents have to pay for honoring parents. Of course, there's a story of Rav Chaim Volozhin when the yeshiva bacher came to him and said, my parents want me to come home for Bein Hazmanim, for the vacation, and they told me, they didn't send me money. They said, they don't want to pay. So do I have to go? So Rav Chaim said, yeah, you have to go. So he said, but the Talmud says that they have to pay. So Rav Chaim said, so walk. Right? I don't want to pay for the train ticket, you walk. So it comes out that a person does not have to suffer financial, emotional, or physical pain in order to honor one's parents. So that's a good guideline for, and maybe, what Ilana, you said is maybe there are aspects you can do and aspects you can't. You can definitely bring them, once they have passed away, you're not in such risk. But, that's generally the way it works. Okay. Honoring parents is not always easy. As children, we need more from them than they do from us. In our teenage years, we crave independence. That's when normally the issues begin. As we continue to develop our own lives, we generally form a more equitable relationship with our parents, especially when we ourselves have kids. As our parents age and become more needy, the balance changes again. And we really have to take care of them. Throughout all these changing dynamics, we are always required to honor and respect our parents. So it's a dynamic relationship. It's not, it changes. This is a beautiful story in the Talmud. Rabbi Tarfon had a very short mother. Whenever she wished to get into bed, he would bend over and she would step on him to ascend. Whenever she wished to get out of the bed, she would descend on him. He came and praised himself in the Beis Midrash. They said to him, you still have not reached even half of the honor due to her. Has it ever happened that she threw your purse into the sea in your presence and you did not embarrass her?
Does this apply to all of us or just Rabbi Tarfon?
All the more so, right? Why would it only apply to Rabbi Tarfon?
I don't know. It's because it's an unusual thing, and I'm sure Rabbi Toffan, being a Amora or a Tana, I don't know what he was, but I'm
Tana.
sure that uh, he was not an unusual person.
Okay,
He was
let's
not
look
a
at this.
usual person, right?
This is what I told you earlier. The question was asked: from whose funds must one give his parents food and drink? Rabbi Yehuda says, from the son. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Natan ba Oishia said, from the father. And the halacha is like the one who says it must be paid the money from the father. Although he is not required to spend his own money, the son must leave aside his work to honor his father, which may cause him to lose out on potential earnings. Okay, so yeah, let's say you've gotten, you're a tour guide, just happen to be a tour guide, and your parents are coming into town, and you need to go fetch them at the airport, bring them in, bring them out. But you're gonna lose out on a potential job. Are you allowed to tell your parents, hey, those are my working hours, I don't have to pay you should pay me? No. If you have an actual job, if you have an actual job, so then then there is room to say, I'm working. There's that. You don't have to lose money that you have, but money that you're not earning, that you have to give up as well. And so it's three over here. Hang on a second. The sages taught: one honors his father in life and honors them in death. So mechavda b'chai, mechavda b'moisei. There's a way to do that. Okay. Yes, Marcus.
Let's say you're a tour guide and you have clients for a day, and your parents come in on that day. Is it considered honoring them to send them a car and driver to pick them up from the airport, or to send them a cab while you go to work? I mean, granted, it wouldn't be as much as doing it yourself, but would it still fulfill that mitzvah?
Yeah, I think the Talmud says always better to do a mitzvah yourself than others, but definitely. True. I think there's a sticky question that parents, it's very different, not only for you doing the mitzvah, but for your parents, like who's picking them up.
Yeah.
I would hope that they understand. But you're right. If you really had a job, one would not need to forgo it in order to honor one's parents. Okay. The text depicts the importance of the obligation in fulfilling the commandment to honor one's parents. Why do you think this is so? Why is it such a far-reaching commandment? The Talmud says that a person has the ability to forgo their honor, that a parent has the ability to forego their honor, calling parents by their first names, sitting in their places, all these things. A parent can say, I don't mind. Do we see this demonstrated in contemporary parent-child relations? Has the expression of this debate changed as our societal norms of how we treat parents and the aged and their expectations of how they should be treated have changed? How far are you obligated to take care of your parents when they resist your help and suggestions? Often with elderly parents, it's very hard because they want to maintain their independence, especially in decision making, and they resist your help, which sometimes is critical. Children are not expected to suffer property, physical, emotional harm in order to honor and respect their parents. Where's the line drawn between a child's obligation and the parents taking advantage or even abusing their children? So any comments or questions?
My grandfather and my grandmother on my mom's side, they lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and they were put in an assisted living facility. And no, I shouldn't say they were put there, but I should say that my grandfather, my Zaidi, he was a real estate broker, but he was, by the time they moved to a nursing home from assisted living, he was losing his marbles a little bit about business, and he was talking about how he was going to sell his house and how much money it was worth, which was nothing like what the market value was. And so my mom and her sisters basically did it without his consent, and he was really upset about it. But it was able to give him enough money to keep him going in the nursing home until Medicaid or Medicare or whatever it was kicked in to take care of his needs for the rest of his life. So I don't have I think they did the right thing, even though it was painful for my Zadie and his wife. She was already kind of out there, but I think that was kind of painful for him, especially. But it was also painful for the children, because like you said, having to fight with the parents to get them the proper care. I don't know. I don't have an opinion. I don't know what to make of it. I think they did the right thing.
Yeah, it's a very tough decision,
How do you draw a line like that? I mean,
I don't know if there is one. Someone once asked Rabbi Akiva Eger. He said, he's going to be a rabbi. Can he have some advice? So he said, rabbi, the path of a rabbi is like a ship going through the sea.
Is that okay?
It doesn't leave a trail for the next ship. So, I think every case is so, so different, and it's there's so many variables that I think each one needs to be looked at, and it sounds to me that they did the right idea. I mean, if he, I unfortunately, in a way, to some degree, I'm going through this myself with my brothers, and my mother's not on the phone. That's on the call. That's probably good. I shall listen to the recording. Listen, I think one thing for us doing this now is to remember when the day comes and we feel, hey, I'm losing my marbles, maybe it's time the kids made the decisions for us and to give them to them. I see with my dad, it's not so much that recognition, it's the giving up of the independence, which will make him feel very, very hopeless. He doesn't want to give up things which he's still able to do. And that's part of the dynamic here. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And also sometimes that the parents actually want to get rid of the responsibilities. I have my mom living with us, and she's absolutely fine, but she's given me full signing power over everything because she doesn't want the responsibility of to have to worry about anything now.
And do you think she should have kept some?
She can still make her own decisions, but I have signing power if it's needed. And I respect that if that's what she wants. Like there's certain things she just doesn't want to deal with.
Right. So I think that's ideal, actually, because you've got the signing power. You can do it. I guess you could ask her to do things, herself. But
I would never do anything without her permission or knowledge unless it ever reaches a stage where she can't make the decision herself.
Right. So
I guess I should make a decision now that when I get to the point that I'm losing my marbles a little bit, and other people have to make decisions for me, I guess I should decide that that's when I go on vacation. No.
Right.
Okay, man. That's less for me to deal with. I guess I'll go back to my crossword puzzles that I keep erasing and rewriting because I don't remember them from the next day. Anyway.
Okay, let's get into the underlying principle over here. So imagine how indebted you would feel towards someone who saved your life. Right? You're in a life-threatening situation and someone comes from out of the blue and saves your life. And if they took care of you with clothing, food, and accommodation, right? You landed up on a desert island with a deserted island and you needed all these things and they took care of you. How much more grateful would you feel? What if they provided you, what if they provided you with an education? How would you repay them? So obviously, this is the direction we've gone here with this underlying principle is the Sefer Chinuch. He writes, it's a bit abbreviated, but he says the root of the mitzvah to honor parents is that it's fitting to acknowledge and return the kindness to those who have been good to us. Right? So this is really, right? It's to lahakir or legamel chesed lemish asima tova. It's a chorus toiv practice, right? It's when in Los Achmad, in Duna Covered, we learned about being grateful as a core value. Here, it's expressing your gratitude to others by returning the favors that they've done for you. So
this makes an assumption that the person who has to honor their parents like themselves and like their lives and appreciate being on the earth.
Yep, definitely. That's the connection to Do Not Covet, 100%. Especially when it comes to parents, to take heart that they are the reason you exist, right? So even if you had parents that, never, some people have, find out later in life who their father is, that's not that uncommon. And the question is, are they obligated to honor them? I had a friend in Telstone who grew up in a oh my word, I only got these corona words. What's it called? Home for an orphanage. He grew up in an orphanage, but he knew who his parents were. But his parents felt they could not bring him up. They were destitute. They were, I think they might have had some psychological issues. And when he got older, he very much honored his biological parents for the very fact that they brought him into existence, right? They brought us up for this. There is truly fitting to honor them in every way. So, it starts with them bringing you into existence, and it ends with parents really doing. And I'm sure we are all excellent parents on this call. We know how much we're giving to our parents, to our children, and it's good. It's good to stop and think about how much parents really did for you, and that's the root of as a mensch, kibbud av v'em. They took care of me. I'll take care of them. So here are the questions: is the mitzvah of honoring biological parents different from adopted or foster children? We touched on. Is one obligated to honor a parent who is absent after conception or birth? We also touched. Underlying this debate is a sense of indebtedness and gratitude to our parents. Since in contemporary times we have more control over reproduction, for whose benefit are children being born into this world, right? We often think, well, why did they have, my parents wanted children? Does the intention of parents have an effect on this debate? Do you think of your parents doing a kindness to some lost soul, or do you think of your parents having children because they wanted children? That's a very common motivation. And does it change the dynamic?
That is a weird one. I mean, usually, for most of history, children was just a byproduct of having a marriage. Whereas today, it's a conscious decision in a marriage.
Right.
That really is a good question. I mean, I think with that, a person has a right. I think for the way it is today, a person has more of a right to appreciate or depreciate their parents for having brought them into this world.
More intentional.
Listen, I know somebody who's struggling personally, and they're not 100% grateful for their existence. So I'm trying to see some of these things through that person's eyes.
Yeah, that will create a challenge to this. That really will. But once again, Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, when he speaks about Yiras Aromamus, fear of God on a higher level, awe, he says that it's a function of thinking. You know, in your daily life, you might be struck by beautiful things and be filled with awe, but if you want it on an ongoing basis and you really want to acquire it as a character trait of something that's part of you, you really have to think often about it. And to me, that's what this I learned from here is that, yeah, you know, to ask me, do you honor your parents? I say, yeah, I do. You think it's important? Yes, I do. How do you do it? And I would immediately think about the actions I do. You know, when I call them, when I send gifts, the way I speak to them. But the truth is that underlying this is really an intense feeling of appreciation. And that comes through taking time to think about what your parents have done for you. So I'm going to leave off with that as an exercise. Just take 5 minutes, and the only thoughts you should have during those 5 minutes are, what have my parents done for me? And I think if we do that more and more regularly, we'll come to a deeper appreciation and ability to really take care of them. On Thursday, we're going to go, we'll continue with this section and really speak about the second aspect, which is respecting parents. Any questions, comments, alternate speeches?
Thank you very much.